Two men from vastly different backgrounds are among the founders of an organization called Roots, the Palestinian Grassroots Initiative for Understanding Nonviolence and Transformation. Rabbi Schlesinger is a passionate Zionist settler who has been profoundly transformed by his friendship with the Awaad family. His understanding of the Middle East conflict has been utterly complicated by the parallel universe that the Awaad family has introduced to him. And Khaled is among the foremost figures in the Palestinian community working toward peace and reconciliation between Palestinians and Israelis. He and his family have been greatly affected by the conflict, which has shaped his beliefs and actions. His brother's death in 2000 marked a turning point in his life and strengthened his commitment to the peace process and to nonviolence and reconciliation. So I would have you welcome these two gentlemen to our midst. Where would you prefer to stand?
It's okay.
Okay. You're welcome to use this or put it in there, whatever.
مرحبا السلام عليكم. شكرا انكم. Thank you for having us for this invitation. My name is Khaled Abu Awaad. I am a Palestinian, I am an Arab, I am a Muslim. I live in Hebron, Beit Ummar. I belong to Abu Awaad's family. Abu Awaad's family is one of the Palestinian family that have been passed most of the tragedy that the Palestinian people passed the last 50 or 60 years. My family originally from Kubebe. Kubebe is a Palestinian village between Hebron and Gaza. It's in the middle. Now it's named Lachish. My grandfather and my family, my land, everything is there. 1948, my family moved from there to a place we call it Idna or Tarkumia, if anyone knows, which is around 7 or 8 kilometers from our village. My father and my family thought that this is going to be finished in a couple of days and then they will be back to their village, to our village. But when this is continue for a month and another month and 6 months, 7 months, then they moved to the area of Hebron, to the city of Hebron. And there, my father rent the first house after 1948. And then he moved from Hebron to Halhul, and then to Beit Ummar, and to Asyon, or Gosh Asyon, where I born there. 1967 again, my father and my family, while I have been 2 years old, they again left the new house in Gosh Etzion to Jordan. They crossed the Jordanian River to the Jordanian side. They spent there for about 5 or 6 days, and then it's not only my father, a lot of Abu Awaad's family. After 5 or 6 days, my father decided to take us back to Palestine, to cross again back the Jordanian River and to return back to our country. He said, I have nothing in Jordan. If I'm going to die, I want to die in my place, in my country, in my land. So he crossed the river with us and he took us back to Beit Umar, where we grown as a refugee family. Me, my brother, our mother, all of us, we have been care for our nation, for our freedom, for what's going on, how to fight this occupation, how to fight for our freedom. And this became to a high level in 1987. The first Intifada start. We, Awaad's family, we have been one of the leaders of this Intifada. We used to give the orders, to spread the brochures, to put the plan, and also to lead on the ground, to stand, to stop the people to go from going to work in in specific days that we decide that it is So we have been, as a family, we have been very happy when the Palestinian and the Israel signed the first peace agreement in 1993. We thought that that's it. We have been honored, we have been happy that our Intifada has achieved what we want. We will have our country, we will have our freedom, we will control ourselves, our life. The occupation will go out, the Israel army will not be here, and that's it. This is what we thought, but in the ground, this is not what happened exactly. I will talk about myself, Khaled. I remember 2 or 3 months after the agreement, one day in the morning I went to Hebron, from my village Beit Umar to Hebron, which is 3.5 kilometers. And when I came to the bridge where we enter to Hebron, I've seen 500 or 600 Palestinian cars standing there, of noise, and I asked them, what's happened here? They said the Israel army closed Hebron, the Hebron area. The Israel army, what they are doing here? It's like what's going on here? It's one of the things that in our eyes represent the occupation is this checkpoint, these things on the ground, and it still happen on as it have been happened before. It's the same, nothing changed. I remember I returned back like with a kind of what's happened here, all what have been done, all those who have been killed in the Intifada, all these things is just going like this, nothing, we achieved nothing changed. I remember in a couple of days we got a meeting, we as a family, especially the brothers, and we said, brothers and our friends in the village, we said, before 3 days there's a checkpoint in Hebron, and the reason that some Palestinian kids, they throw stones on Road 60, and they close the city of Hebron. Guys, we think if this will continue, this agreement will not be succeed. Let's take a part, let's do something. We decide that we should stand beside the Road 60 and protect this road, to stop the people, to stop our youth, our kids from throwing stone on it. And then me, Khaled, I said, that's it. The leader will continue, the leader will bring the peace, they will do it. I should care of my family, I should care of my work. I left everything. I start to build my work, my company as a businessman. And I said, if it's not now, after a year, 2 years, 3 years, but this will be solved. It's like a matter of time. I start working. In my life, nothing changed. The things became bad and bad until the 2000. The day that I got the telephone that my brother Yusuf, 31 years old, the father of Bayan and Yazan, have been shot by an Israeli army in Beit Umar. I went to the village, back to the village from my work, start asking the people, what's happened? How this soldier looked like, the one who shot my brother? Is he a fat, a thin, a short, tools? How he look like? Black, white, what? I ask these questions and I don't know why, what I want from this. Then I asked what's happened. They told me that when a group of soldiers went inside to the village, the kids of the village, they welcomed them by stones. Of course, this is the way. Military, soldier, they are not welcome in our village. They have no place. We don't want them. This is the occupation. This is what make our life so hard and pain. So the soldier is in the village. The kids, they throw a stone on them. And Yusuf, who drive his car from the village out, have been stopped by those soldiers. Stop the car, close the engine, and he do as they ask him. He's the first car on the tail. So, the soldier, the kids, the cousin, the middle, all the stone is coming to my brother's car. And Yusuf went out of the car and he asked the kids of the village, and it's a village of 15,000, 16,000 people, and we are, we are a society that we know each other, all of us. And Yusuf is from Awaad's family, one of the families that people know a lot about, and they know that we care about our nation, about our freedom, everything. So he asked the kids, will you stop? Your stones is coming to my car, to the Palestinian cars. It's not achieving the soldier. And they stop. Which became ununderstandable by one of the Israeli soldiers. It's like, why? I am a soldier with gun, with everything, I cannot stop them. And this Palestinian, he's just say, will you please stop? And they stopped. They answer him. They respect him. What's going on here? This soldier became angry. He started taking stones and throw my brother's car, which make Yusuf angry. He again went out and he came to the soldier. What do you want? You ask me to stop, to close the engine. All what you ask me to do, I do. And I'm trying to stop them. And you do it to me. Why? For what? What do you want from me? The reaction of the soldier is, shut your mouth, go back to your car, I will shoot you. For what? This argument finished that the soldier is put the gun in the head of Yusuf and he shot him. Yusuf died immediately. When you pass something like this, yes, I am a Palestinian. Yes, I'm in Beit Umar. Other people have been killed before Yusuf. in Jenin, in Nablus, everywhere. But now it's not my neighbor, it's my brother. It's not in the house beside my house. It's inside my house. It's me, it's my brother. It's hard to hear that someone from your village, from your people have been killed. But your brother, you are now in somewhere that you cannot continue the same as before. You have to decide what you should do. We the Arab, the Muslim, we said the 3 days of, when someone died, we said 3 days. I remember the first day, the second day, a lot of people came. The second day, some 3 or 4 guys, I don't know whom they are. They sent someone, call Khaled, we want to talk with him. I went, yes guys, what do you want? They opened the car, the front of the car. There is 3 or 4 kinds of weapons. Take what you want, Khaled. If you want us to go to revenge for your brother, we will do it. Because we are right. If you want, you can take any of these. Do whatever you want, and we will support you. For me, there's a voice inside me. It's part of me say, they kill Yusuf. I should do something. It's like, why? And the other voice is, wait. You still have a time. You will think. You still have people coming to you, and you are busy. Wait. This is really what Khaled have inside his mind, inside me. This discussion. So I told them, I closed with my hand. I closed the back of the car, and I said, guy, I'm busy now. I don't know what I want. Go now. We will see. Come after 2 days, 3 days, we will see. I returned. I sat with the people, but my mind is still thinking. I will take one of these women. I will went down. I will shoot anyone who passed through the road, and I will revenge the death of Yusuf. And the other voice, but I will not kill the soldier who killed my brother. I will kill someone else, maybe 1, maybe 2. And they will come here, and the army will come again, and they will revenge from the people of my village. And maybe this will cause the death of another 3, 4, 5 people. And I, Khaled, will be responsible to produce this circle of violence, and I will be responsible for the life of all those that they are going to be killed because of what I am trying to do. Why? And the soldier, the one who killed my brother, the one who shot my brother, maybe he's celebrate somewhere, or maybe he's relaxing somewhere. You have nothing. You have no idea. He's happy. And the other innocent people pay the price of what he is. This is what happened in my mind, inside me. Okay. We continue suffering from what's happened, and the people continue to come, and we start to care about the kids of Yusuf, and I stopped my work I stopped going to my work. All the family is in a trauma, in a bad case. None of us want to do anything. We are all sitting. I remember after 1.5 years, we have another brother. I have half brother, who's the brother of my brother from his mother. I don't know, step brother or what else you call him. His name is Ghazi. He came to me, he said, Khaled, there's a group of Palestinian-Israel peace activists. They invite us, and especially you and the family, to come to join a circle of dialogue with them. I said, Ghazi, Majnoon, are you crazy? What do you want? They kill Yusuf. Yusuf still, it's yesterday they kill Yusuf. You coming, you want me. I left my work, I'm working together with the Jewish people. I left my work. I haven't been in my work for 1.5 years now. They tried to call me, I didn't answer. When they said they are one of my friends, one of my Jewish friends on the telephone, I said, close the telephone, I don't want to hear them. And now you want me to sit with them? Ruh, Majnoon, go. He went to our mother, Fatma. He talked with Fatma, and Fatma, she came. And Fatma, she is our leader. She's the woman that spent 6.5 years in the Israel jail. She's the one who used to say, or to stay with face up, with hand up. She didn't give up any time. She's our leader. And he came to Fatma, and Fatma came to me. Khaled, listen, what we have to lose more than what we lost until now? Let's go and listen. Hey, this is not the army. Those are people who are talking about our right. Maybe. We will listen. If it's okay, it's okay. If nothing happens, then nothing happens. We will not lose anything more. Okay. We cannot say to Fatma no. We said yes. And I remember we went to that circle of dialogue. I came like I just want to spend this 10 minutes or 15 minutes and go back, that's it. But when they start talking, when the Palestinian and Israel people start talking from their heart about their pain, some of them who lost, like what's happened to me, to us, to me, Khaled, you start feel that this kind of feeling, there's no matter if you are Israel, Palestinian, American, whatever you are, whatever your nation, whatever your language, this kind of pain, it's the same. When they talk about the thing that I feel inside me. 1.5 years, I didn't talk about this until that meeting. After, I think, 15 minutes or 20 minutes, I start talking, and they all stop and listen to me. I said, yes, I lost my brother Yusuf. And I start talking about the story of Yusuf. I remember I cry in the middle, while I am not so familiar to cry. It's like, it's not easy for me to cry. Only if that is the moment that I recognize that if we can understand each other, if we can feel each other, this is the most powerful weapon that we can fight anything who make our life so miserable. We can fight the occupation, we can fight the military. We can fight all the army. We can fight anyone for our freedom together. Why to put all of the Israel people together in one place? Yeah, I know. When they elect the leader. They decide. Most of them, but not all of them. Those who believe in my right, those who are ready to support me, I will support them. I don't have a problem to live together with the Jewish people in my land. I think we can, and we have enough space, enough air, enough space, enough water, everything. But if we respect each other, if we understand the needing of each other, this is me, this is my story. I will invite Hanan. Thank you for listening to me.
Of course, it happens all the time that a speaker thanks the audience, thanks the organizers, and of course I do want to thank everyone for coming and to thank Sabeel for having us. I have special thanks in my heart for two reasons. One is because I understand that it may not have been easy for you to invite me here, a Jewish, Israeli, Zionist settler. It may not be obvious that you would welcome me as you've welcomed us at this very moment. A little less than a year ago, as part of my interfaith journey, I contacted the Sabeel office in Israel, and I asked to meet with someone there to hear the Sabeel perspective. And Reverend Nabil Atik, the founder of Sabeel, who's now I think in the 70s, agreed to meet with me. We had a pretty one-sided meeting, which he told me that I have no place in my home, and there's no place for the Jewish claim to the land that I claim, and that the Jews are just colonial occupiers. But I believe in talking to anyone who's willing to hear me. And I thank you again for bringing in someone who may be, in the eyes of some of you, the enemy or the cause of the suffering in the Middle East. I hope that you'll think a little bit differently after I speak, but in any case, the dialogue itself, I think, is important. But a second reason, just as powerful, that I want to thank you is because I'm in pain. I'm in pain over the events of the past 2 weeks, and I need to talk about it. It's therapeutic, it's cathartic. I have to spill out my heart, and any audience that's willing to listen enters with me into a journey of some type of healing through speaking. And one of the reasons I think perhaps many of us are in deep pain over what's happening in Israel, Palestine for the past 2 weeks. It's even worse than it's been for the past 2 months, in the past 2 years, in the past 2 decades, in the past hundreds of years. It's really bad. For me, it really, really hit home in a fashion that it rarely has hit home before. This was Thursday night, just about 2 weeks ago, when at 10 o'clock at night, I was reading the news before I went to sleep on the internet, and I read the headline that Naama and Eitam Hankin were gunned down in cold blood by 2 terrorists with their 4 children in the back seat of the car witnessing what happened. Well, I screamed when I read that headline. I'm deeply pained when anyone is killed, but the Hankin family I know very well. The parents of the boy, Eitam, he was, I believe, 31 years old. His wife was a little younger. I've known the family for the past 30 years, almost since he was born. I've been with them through thick and thin. And he's gone, and his wife is gone. I screamed, I woke up my wife, and we cried together that night. And the next morning, Friday morning, we woke up and we went to the funeral with thousands of other people. The funeral was subdued, was very, very quiet and very, very painful, of course. As the eulogies were spoken, you heard the sobs of the mother and the father of the man and the woman who were killed. You heard sobs from the audience that was gathered there, breaking the silence, and you heard my sobs. It was almost impossible to be there. We were, and I were, deeply, deeply, deeply wounded. And they're gone. Nama and Eitan are gone, with so many other innocent people. From the news I read, perhaps you read different news, everyone reads different news. From the news I read, it's been primarily Israelis who've lost their lives in the past 2 weeks, but it's also Palestinians. Khaled didn't mention that in addition to the fact that his brother Yusuf was killed 14 years ago, his son is now in jail for reasons we know not why. Absolutely true that innocent people on both sides are losing their lives and losing their liberty and losing their freedom in the past few weeks. And there's something else we're losing. We're losing the last shreds of trust. People on both sides are losing the last shreds of trust, of understanding, and of hope for coexistence that we've had until now. I would say that our hopes in so many cases are going to the grave together with the innocent people who have been buried in the past 2 weeks. And in place of those shreds of hope that we had, there's more and more hate. There's more and more suspicion. There's more and more fear of the other side. And just as I grieve for the dead and I grieve for the loss of hope, I grieve for that suspicion and that hate and that resentment and that rage that is growing. And as we're filling with more fear, I still have a hope, and I grieve on the one hand and I hope on the other hand that there's a way forward. And I'm thanking you for giving me and giving us the opportunity to grieve together and to speak together and to search with you together for a way forward. So I'll tell you my story, and I'm sure that for some of you, my story will be hard to hear. I'm not telling you my story in order to anger you. I want to reveal to you who I am. It'll be a roller coaster for you, perhaps. It's a roller coaster for me. It's not easy. So I define myself with 3 words. I'm a Jew, and I'm a Zionist, and I'm a settler. And I'll take 2 or 3, perhaps even 4 minutes to tell you what I mean by those words. Many people might have different definitions. For me, to be a Jew, you have to understand, is not to be primarily a member of a faith community or religion. We say the Jewish people and we mean it. We are a people. We are a nation. We go back to chapter 12 of the book of Genesis, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Abraham was called upon by God to go to the land that I will show you, said the Lord, and he went. And he went with Sarah, and they entered into the land of Canaan that we call today the land of Israel. And God comes forth in a vision and says, to this land will I give you and your descendants. And from that very moment, the Jewish people go from being a family, and then we become a clan, and the clan grows into a tribe, and the tribe becomes a people, a nation. And from the very beginning, that nation has understood itself in a divine perspective of being connected to a certain piece of real estate, the land of Canaan, the land of Israel. That's deeply, deeply embedded in our consciousness, in our religious historical narrative. You have to also understand that when I say we're not just a faith community, but we're a people, that means we all feel ourselves deeply connected horizontally and vertically. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are part of my personal identity. I wasn't born 58 years ago. I'm not going to die tomorrow, another 10 or 30 years. I was born 3,000 years ago, and I'm going to live forever as long as the Jewish people are upon this planet. And furthermore, there's a deep sense that every single stage of Jewish history is part of me. I was there. I was with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the pages of the book of Genesis. I was there with the Israelites in Egypt, going out of Egypt, 40 years in the desert, getting the Torah, conquering the land with Joshua. That's part of who I am. That's what I mean when I say that I'm a Jew. When I say that I'm a Zionist, I mean the following. I mean that I'm one of those Jews that understand that beginning in the 19th century, the end of the 19th century, and then the 20th century and the 21st century, I'm one of those Jews that understand that the time has come, that historical circumstances are right, and it's God's will that the Jewish people return to our ancient homeland. For 2,000 years, we've been in exile. We've been in Eastern Europe. We've been in Mid-Europe. We've been in America. We've been in North Africa. We've been in Iraq and Iran. And you have to understand that from our perspective, we really, really have seen ourselves for 2,000 years as not in the right place, as waiting, as not fulfilling our historical identity, as hoping and grieving, and praying and yearning for the day when the Jewish people will be brought out of exile and brought on the divine wings back to our country, back to our land. And circumstances allowed us to come back at the end of the 19th century. For us, that's the fulfillment of biblical prophecies. That's Jeremiah, that's Isaiah, that's Ezekiel, that's Zechariah, and that's real. That's real for us. It animates every bone of our body and every flesh that's covering our bones. I was born in New York. I wasn't born in Israel. At the age of 18, I picked up with my 2 valises and I said, I'm going to where every Jew should be, where it's happening, where God is fulfilling the ancient dream of the Jewish people, where we are reconsummating the very meaning of what it means to be part of the Jewish people. For me, that's what it means to be a Zionist. And then I have to explain to you the word that probably sounds most inflammatory. I call myself a settler. I use that word because that's the word that you use. That's the word that the media uses. And I understand, I really do understand, that it sounds like I'm making a political statement. But that's not my intention. I understand that it is a political statement, but my primary meaning, the primary reason I call myself a settler, and that I am a settler, is for religious reasons. What does it mean to be a settler geographically? So here we are, Jerusalem, Bethlehem, Hebron. I live between Bethlehem and Hebron. I live in an area called Gush Etzion. That's the Jewish definition of the place. It's right next to Beit Umar, where Khaled grew up. Beit Umar is right above Hebron, more or less equidistant between Bethlehem and Hebron. And in the media, the place I live is called the West Bank. It's called occupied territory. It's called Palestine. It's called Palestinian territory. Others call it liberated territory, Greater Israel. All of those names have some meaning and some significance and truth from different narrative perspectives. But I don't call it any of those names. I call it Judah and Samaria. In Hebrew, Yehudah and Shomron. And I call it that. I understand that it sounds like a political statement, and I understand that it is, but I call it that for the most simplest of reasons, because that's what the Bible called it 2,500 years ago. And that's what the Bible called it 2,200 years ago. And that's what the Jewish people have been calling it since then. Why should I change the name of it? Because in modern times it's gotten new names. I call it what my people have been calling it. And my people have been calling it that because my people have felt the deep historical religious connection to that place. And why do we feel a deep historical connection to that place? Even more than Tel Aviv and even more than Nahariya and more than Ashdod? I'll tell you something. Because the coastal plain with all those modern cities whose names I just mentioned, where so many Israelis live today, that's part of the promised land. It's part of the land of Israel, land of Canaan. But through almost all the years of Jewish history, when our people did live in our land, we didn't live on the coast. We lived in the central mountain range. We lived right over here. I'm not tall enough to put my finger up there. But we lived in the central mountain range, what is today called the West Bank. Let me explain. The area below Jerusalem, that is to say south of Jerusalem, is called in our language Judah. The land above Jerusalem, all the way up to Nablus and to the border between the gray and the what does it call it, orange over there, that's Samaria. That's what the Bible calls it. Why is it called Samaria up there? Because that was the biblical kingdom of Samaria. Why is it called Judah below that? That was the biblical kingdom of Judah. Called Judah because the tribe of Judah inherited that land. The land of Judah was primarily the tribe of Judah and the tribe of Benjamin. It's been called that for all of our history. And I want to live there even more than I want to live in Tel Aviv, because Abraham never made it to Tel Aviv. Isaac, Jacob never made it to Tel Aviv. King David was never in Tel Aviv. Neither was Solomon. The Maccabees weren't there. Through almost all of Jewish history, when we were in our land, we were in the central mountain range. We were in Judah and Samaria. And if I am a Jew, And if I am a Zionist, then I want to fulfill my historical destiny in the place where it all began, where I can feel that historical continuity. And you have to understand how far that goes. Where we live, when you want to learn a page of Bible, and we're all religious Jews, you don't sit in the classroom. You take the Bible out into the land, and you can literally see, this is where Abraham was. This is where the battle of David and Goliath took place. This is where the Maccabees fought. It all happened there. You can even see 5 minutes from my house, we have what's called Patriarch's Way, which is the ancient Roman road and the ancient Canaanite road going south, north, north, south. That's the road that Abraham took from Beersheba, Hebron to Jerusalem for the binding of Isaac. It's for real. There's a Roman milestone there that says 11 miles to Jerusalem. You can feel that that is where the ancient pilgrims going on Passover, Shavuot, and Sukkot, the holiday of tabernacles, to the temple in Jerusalem 2,000 years ago to worship God. And there are ancient mikvaot, ancient ritual baths there carved into the rock where my forefathers 2,000 years ago, that's a 5-minute walk from my backyard, 2,000 years ago, my forefathers were there on the pilgrimage to Jerusalem. That, in a nutshell, is my story. That's my identity. And I know today that the power and the righteousness and the truth and the divine biblical meaning of the story I just told you has blinded me and blinded my people to another truth and another reality. Our narrative is so all-encompassing and pushes us forward so strongly that we have been blinded. I mean, we Jews, Zionist settlers, we've been blinded to the fact that in modern times there's another nation there before us. The Palestinians were there in the 19th century and we didn't see them. They were there in the 20th century and we didn't see them. And for the past 34 years, I've lived where I lived in Gush Etzion, between Bethlehem and Hebron, and I didn't see that 95% of the Palestinians are there, are human beings, are suffering, are living with lack of dignity, that their national rights are being trampled. I didn't see that because I was so involved and engrossed in fulfilling God's vision for my people. And I believe it's God's vision for my people. But it doesn't sit well with me that God's vision for my people is being fulfilled on the back of another nation. And I want to tell you now the story how I came to this strange conclusion. It was only a year and a half ago. A year and a half ago, I was invited by a Protestant pastor in Reston, Virginia, who has the habit of coming to the Holy Land 2 or 3 times a year, meeting Palestinians, meeting Israeli settlers, and introducing them to each other. And he heard about me, that I was an Israeli looking to meet Palestinians, and I'd never met one in my life, even though they live all around me. And he invited me to an event. And this event absolutely changed my life. Let me go back and tell you how distant I was from knowing anything about Palestinians. I'll tell you a personal story, and then I'll tell you a general fact. Personal story. Going back a while ago, I had in my car 2 Protestant pastors from Texas. I was once a rabbi in Texas. I have lots of Christian connections there. I'm showing them the Jewish settlements of the Gush Etzion area. That's the 22 settlements between Bethlehem and Hebron. And we're driving in the car, 2 pastors, there's 2 empty seats in the car. I was in the driver's seat. We pick up a hitchhiker, let him off. I see another hitchhiker, pick him up, let him off. A third, let him off. And then after I let the 3 hitchhikers off, so one of the pastors, Bob, he says to me, Hanan, you're such a nice guy. You pick up hitchhikers. We don't do that in Texas. So I said, yeah. We around here pick up hitchhikers. We feel a certain sense of camaraderie and brotherhood with all the people who live here. Every single person, I said, every single person who puts out his finger, I pick him up. And as I'm finishing the sentence, I realized I was lying. I was lying to Bob and I was lying to myself. Because I don't pick up every single person that puts out his finger. I only pick up the Jews that put out their fingers. But I had never noticed that there were Palestinians out there that also needed a ride. because they just weren't part of my narrative. My cognitive building blocks didn't allow me to see that there were other people there. I thought I was picking up all the people. And I was subconsciously, in saying I pick up every person who puts out his finger, I was subconsciously equating Jew with person. What does that say about my understanding of what a Palestinian is? They weren't part of my consciousness. And I want to now tell you something else. How distant are Palestinians and Israelis? Well, where I come from, of course, 95% of the area is Palestinian. We're only 5% the Jews, perhaps less. We live right next to each other, drive in the same roads, but we have no contact. Different municipalities. The people who pick up my garbage don't pick up theirs. Different school system, different religions. Different media. I read the newspapers, they read different newspapers. Radio, television, different stations, which means different narratives, which means different realities. Different religions, different calendars. Different economic systems where we shop, they don't shop. Everything is different. After school activities for the kids, transportation systems, everything is separate. And when you're so close to each other, but so separate, of course there's going to be ignorance, and there's going to be prejudice, and there's going to be resentment, and there's going to be hate, and there's going to be fear. And if you add into the mix violence, then each person on every side understands and knows for certainty that those on the other side, all of them, are bad. I'm talking about the way Israelis see Palestinians and Palestinians see Israelis. We don't know them, we're resentful, hate each other, know nothing about the other, and they're all violent. The only language they understand is violence. That's what people on both sides say. And that's what I said also, until I met a Palestinian for the first time. So I'm going to this event that I was invited to, and I go to the front door of my house, and I remember putting my hand on the doorknob, and I told my wife where I'm going, and she said, of course, what she should have said, given the circumstances. Don't go, it's dangerous. And I went anyway, and I walked out of my house, and my heart was pounding, because I was afraid. And I'm walking through the Palestinian vineyards and fields around my house. I just had to walk 20 minutes. That means by foot, not by car, not by bicycle, a 20-minute walk to get to, like, the other side of the earth. And I get to this Palestinian enclave, a piece of farmland, and I see there 20 Palestinians, perhaps 25, 20 Israeli settlers, my neighbors, talking to each other. That doesn't happen. It can't happen. That was a miracle that we got together there. And these people are sitting and talking and eating. I walk up to this Palestinian woman who's dressed in brown from head to toe. I can only see her face. And I walked up and I said hello in English, and we talked a little bit. And then I said to her, I can't believe I'm talking to you. And she said, I can't believe I'm talking to you. We don't talk to settlers. And then she introduced me to her husband, and then her husband introduced me to their son, Yazin, and I'm talking to them. And Jamal, that was the man's name, he hears that I used to live in Karmei Tzur, which is even a smaller settlement than where I live today. Now, Karmei Tzur is right on the border of Beit Umar, where Khaled grew up. And Jamal says, you live in Karmei Tzur, I live in Beit Umar. We're neighbors. So he takes out his smartphone to show me where he lives in Beit Umar on Google Maps. I couldn't believe that a Palestinian has a smartphone. Didn't know what's happening here. So he takes out his phone, shows me on Google Maps where he lives. And we see he lives right on the border where there's a fence, and then the other side of the border, the fence is Karmei Tzur, where I used to live. Now, I remember 30 years ago that the kids in Beit Umar throw stones at our kids over the fence. And I remember the terrible things people in Beit Umar used to do to us. They would put big boulders on the road, the access road to Karmei Tzur. In the middle of the night, you're coming in the car, you have to stop and take the boulders away, and you're afraid you're going to be shot from the side of the road. We used to live in fear. And now I'm meeting someone from Beit Umar. And I'll tell you one more story to tell you how strange it was to talk to a human being, stand right next to him, a human being from Beit Umar. Because 30 years ago, when we used to live in Karmei Tzur, we had kids in the house, infants, and, well, this doesn't happen in your homes, but in our home, sometimes the parents got angry at the kids, even, yelled at them. And when my wife used to get really, really upset, didn't happen too often, but when she got really, really upset, she'd curse the kids by saying, "Go to Beit Umar." Anyone need a translation into English for that? Go to hell. And now I'm meeting someone from hell, and he doesn't seem to be a devil. I couldn't explain to myself how I'm standing there talking to they're human beings. And then So I see Yazin, the 17-year-old kid, I start talking to him. He's wearing a jacket that says on it, Seeds of Peace. Anyone ever hear of Seeds of Peace, the camp in Maine that takes kids from the conflict zone? I said to myself, how can a Palestinian dare wear a jacket that has the word peace on it? They don't know anything about peace. And then Yazin starts telling me about what he learned in the camp about reconciliation and understanding people and building bridges. And he told me that the Israeli friends, I couldn't believe that this kid was saying these things. Palestinians are only terrorists. And he's telling me about peace. And then Jamal, after we talked like 5 or 10 minutes, he says to me, Hanan, you know, when our kids see someone who looks like you with a big kippah, they start to cry. So I said to Jamal, what's so frightening about my kippah? So he says, well, it's the long beard. I said, Jamal, what's wrong with my beard? And he said, you don't understand, Hanan? All of you people with these big kippot and a long beard, you all carry submachine guns and you kill our people, you kill our kids. He said that to my face. I couldn't believe that he had the lack of tact to say that after only meeting him 10 minutes ago. But after a few seconds, I suddenly realized how Jamal and his children look at me. I was able to step out of myself and understand that, yeah, it happens often that on a Friday afternoon, we'll go outside the fence of a lone shvut and we'll take a walk in the fields to feel the land of Israel under our feet, to walk on the paths that Abraham walked. And when we do so, of course, we take guns because we're afraid. And I understood that those Palestinian kids looking at all those strange-looking Israelis with long beards and kippot, they're all carrying guns. That must be frightening. And I got it. And after we talked to many people, we got together, sat in a circle, and a Palestinian talked about his life, an Israeli talked about his life, and the Palestinian who spoke was Khaled's brother, Ali Abu Awaad. And Ali started describing what it's like to live in Beit Umar under Israeli occupation. Did you say occupation? What are you talking about? I said to myself as Ali is speaking, because I've read that word in the newspaper and I heard it on the radio, but never in my life did I stand next to a human being who used that word to describe me, an occupier. I don't know myself as an occupier. I left New York with the Bible in my hand, with the vision of Isaiah, to go back to the land, fulfill God's promise for the Jewish people. I'm liberating the land for the Jewish people and for God. And suddenly I hear that I'm an occupier. I didn't know exactly how to digest, how to handle what he was saying. And he talked about living in Beit Umar, growing up without rights, with checkpoints, with your dignity ground under the heels of the occupying army. He talked about history. He talked about 1917 and 1948, 1967, about the first intifada, the second intifada. And he was taking the building blocks of my history, my Jewish history that I know, and taking those building blocks and creating from them a narrative very, very different, very, very different than the story that I know. It was extremely challenging, extremely offensive to listen. But as I was listening, I couldn't put my finger on anything false that he said. I walked out of there extremely troubled. I came home. I remember pacing back and forth in my study for days and weeks, troubled deeply, offended and confused about this new narrative that I heard. So I go to Google, like everyone does these days, and I type in Palestine and Israeli occupation, and I come to all these leftist websites that a good Orthodox Jew should never be caught dead reading. And I read there, I have to tell you the truth, a lot of very, very poisonous venom that was directed against the Israelis as the source of all evil, and especially directed against the settlers, in other words, against me. And I'm reading this stuff and I'm offended more than I was offended by hearing Ali speak. But as I'm reading it, something begins to penetrate. And I say to myself, you know what? Some of this is not false, some of this is true. And I was able to identify some of it is true. The things they're saying against me and about me, I was able to identify some of it is true for two reasons, I think. One, because I had just met a human being, a Palestinian. And just meeting human beings opened up the window of my soul just a crack to let some other light in. And I was able to read this stuff not only on the defensive, but also trying to see the Palestinian perspective. And another reason I was able to identify some of what I was reading as true is because I had actually seen it, but never seen it. I had seen it with my eyes, but it just went right through my consciousness because my cognitive building blocks had not prepared me to accept it. But now I was able to accept it, and I began to see truth out there that had gone right by me. And then the months went by, and I read more, and I met more Palestinians, and I talked to Israelis who had met Palestinians, and I began to change. And it was a really, really difficult process that, by the way, is still going on inside me. I'm a work in progress. And there were days I remember that I was nauseous from the spiritual crisis of trying to figure out the truth. It was like I had to pick up my stomach from the floor and put it back inside. It was churning so deeply and so painfully. And I began to come to a place after 6, 7, 8 months of understanding that there's two truths here. There's two truths here. And I began to phrase it, understand it in the language of Rabbi Abraham Isaac Cohen Cook, who was the first chief rabbi of the reconstituted Jewish settlement of the land of Israel in the beginning of the 20th century. As a mystic, he taught us that there are shards, there are sparks of truth everywhere, in every person, every political party, every religion, every culture. There's truth everywhere. But if there's truth everywhere, then what is falsehood? If everything is true, is anything false? Rabbi Cook taught that falsehood is partial truth masquerading as complete truth, as full truth. When you think you have all the truth, that's when you have no truth at all. That's when your truth has become idolatrous. And that's true for every person, every religion, every culture. And I said to myself, that must mean that for 34 years of my life, I've been living in falsehood because my narrative consumed me to the point in which I wasn't able to let in any other, albeit partial truth. And I began to come to a place in which I say, I'm a Jew, and I'm a Zionist, and I'm a settler, and I'm deeply connected to the Jewish people, to Jewish history, to the land of Israel, and the Jewish people have a deep historical righteous claim to that land, but there's also a Palestinian people that also has a deep historical religious true claim to the same land. And I've come to a place where I say, and I get this from my teacher, my rabbi, Ali Abu Awaad, who's never been to a rabbinical seminary, but in my mind, he's my rabbi. You're supposed to laugh when I say that. Thank you very much for laughing, but I mean it. Ali always says that for most of his life, he had the Palestinian people on his shoulder, and it was very heavy. But today, he has an additional people, the Israeli people on the other shoulder, and that's even heavier, but at least they balance themselves out. And what I'm aspiring for as I continue my spiritual journey is to be able to accept and identify with and even advocate for not just my truth and my people, but for the truth and the rights of another people, the Palestinians. And what that means is that what I've described to you is not just a spiritual journey, but it's also a transformation of living. I can't just come to understand Palestinian rights and dignity. I also have to do something about it. I also have to find a better way of living out my truth and practicing my truth so it doesn't come on account of, doesn't come while grinding down the truth and the dignity of another people. So that is me. But you didn't come here just to talk about me. I think you came here to also learn about what Khaled and I and the hundreds and others of Israelis and Palestinians are doing with the perspective that I just presented to you. So what we want to do is show you a 4.5-minute film, just 4.5-minute film, of some of the activities that we've been organizing in our organization for the past year. I'll just tell you the name of the initiative and then we'll show the film. Is it going to show pretty easily? Where's Jan? Jan, right.
Yeah.
Hope it's going to show pretty easily in another few seconds as you're looking for it.
That's not encouraging, so just a minute.
So I'll tell you, what we've done is we've established an initiative called Roots, in Hebrew Shorashim, in Arabic Judur, the Israeli-Palestinian Grassroots Initiative for Understanding Nonviolence and Transformation. We have a piece of land that's owned by the Abu Awaad family, Ali and Khaled. It's Palestinian farmland. It's among many other Palestinian farms. But at the same time that it's among many Palestinian farms, it's also in the center of Jewish settlement. It's surrounded by Jewish settlements. And the reason I note that is because it's one of the rare places in the whole West Bank that Palestinians and Israelis can both have equal access to and feel comfortable being there. Palestinians cannot go into Israeli towns and settlements without a work permit. Israelis cannot go into Palestinian villages for fear. Where can we meet? There's no place to meet, even if we wanted to. And no one wants to, except our people, our organization. But even if we wanted, where do we meet? So this piece of land has become an oasis in a conflict zone. Are we ready now? Oh, no! Okay, not meaning to put any pressure on you, but... Say it again? So if we really can't get the access, we're bringing the hard disk. Now, is it possible to listen to me talking while Jan is playing with the internet? Can you concentrate? So let me start describing what we're doing. We're trying to build bridges and break down walls of suspicion, hate, and ignorance by simply having human beings meet each other as equals. We don't come to debate. We don't come to argue. We come to listen. People from each side tell their story. What is it like to be an Israeli? Who am I? Why am I here? What do I believe? And Palestinians tell their story. Why am I here? Look at my suffering. Look at what's happening to me. Listen to my aspirations. And the two sides listen to each other. And in the best case scenario, and this best case scenario we've seen played out tens and hundreds of times, people begin to change. We work in 3 concentric circles. The outer circle are the internationals, Jews, Christians, and Muslims who come from around the world. I think over 30 cities have been represented, come around the world to see our work. We estimate about 8,000 people in the past year and a half since we started getting off the ground have come to visit us. And they hear a Palestinian speak, they hear an Israeli settler speak, they hear the story that I told you for the past, that I and Khaled told you for the past hour. In some cases, rare cases, they come not just to hear a story for 2 or 3 hours, they come to volunteer. You saw some volunteers there helping us prepare the land for 3 days, for a week. And in rare cases, people come for 6 months or 7 months as interns. We've had about 5 interns since we started. That's the outer concentric circle. The middle circle is the Israelis and Muslims and Christians from the larger land of Israel and Palestine who come to visit us. They come, in many cases, both the Palestinians and the Israelis who come cannot believe that religious people, Jewish religious people and Muslim religious people, can come together and make peace. They believe that only secular people can make peace. That's true for the Palestinians, true for the Israelis. And in almost all cases, they leave a meeting with us after 2 or 3 hours confounded and amazed and I would say changed. That's the leftists that come to visit us from around the country. Another part of the middle circle is our program with Israeli pre-military academies. Let me explain that. In Israel, almost all the kids, boys and girls, go to the army right after high school for 3 years, 2 years in the case of women. For the past approximately 10 years, a phenomenon has been developing of not going to the army immediately after high school, but taking a gap year off and going to an academy, a pre-military academy. These academies, some of them are focused on Zionist studies, some are focused on Jewish studies, some of them are about physical fitness, some are about leadership skills. They learn different things. These academies have begun bringing their students to come visit us. Just imagine Israeli kids who've never met a Palestinian and who've almost never met a settler coming to hear us speak for 2 or 3 hours, a Palestinian and Israeli together. These 18-year-olds are profoundly transformed. More than one case we've seen, an Israeli, it's almost always a boy, who says, I'm not going to be in the same room as a Palestinian. They've killed our people. Won't shake Ali's hand or call one of the Palestinians a baboon. We've heard that. And after 2 or 3 hours, there's tears, there's handshakes, there's hugs, there's a change of heart. You know, it sounds so simple, but sometimes it is so simple. And these are the kids that another few weeks or few months after they meet us are going to be in army uniforms, manning checkpoints. Well, I'm not promising here an end to the occupation. I'm promising you that those soldiers are going to be a little bit more humane, a little bit more understanding, and a little bit more empathetic and sympathetic. So that's an example of our middle circle. Now I'm going to tell you about our bread and butter, which is the inner circle. The inner circle is when we bring together local Palestinians and local Israelis. That means people who are neighbors but don't know their neighbors, who've never met the other. I'll give you just one tiny short story that just happened to me a month ago. A girl in our community, about 27 years old, heard about our activities, as more and more people are hearing, and she calls me on the phone. She says, I want to hear about this. So she comes to my house, and I talked about half an hour about what we do. And then she says she wants to get involved. So I suggest to her that I'll put her in contact with a Palestinian activist from Beit Umar. She said to me, what's Beit Umar? She's lived next to Beit Umar for 27 years. Beit Umar is a 7-minute drive away. Not only didn't she know where Beit Umar is, she didn't know what Beit Umar is. Khaled said there's about 18,000 people in Beit Umar. I actually think there's more. Can you imagine that? We don't know each other. And people come to meet. Some of our activities are just come and talk. Sometimes we have circles in which we have discussions. Just 2 weeks ago, we had a it was actually a week and a half ago, a powerful discussion. Come and speak about your feelings in light of the developing situation. People were being killed, as they still are. And we had a really, really difficult time of listening. And people said things that were hard to hear, but we were there to listen, and we did. It actually wasn't that encouraging, but at least now each side knows a little bit better what the other side is seeing, experiencing, and feeling. Another one of our programs is the summer camp, which you saw for the 2 years running. We've only been around for a year and a half. Beginning the Gaza war a year and 3 months ago, and now just 3 months ago, we had our summer camp. 30 Palestinian kids, 30 Israeli kids for 3 days playing together, making those dyed t-shirts together, doing breakdance together, going to the beach together. We went to a dual language play together. Now, I just have to tell you, I'm not telling you that they all became close friends. In most cases, they didn't even talk to the other side. There's no common language. But they heard the other side speaking. They felt the other side's body language. They heard the other side's songs. They wiped hummus from the same tub together. They went into the same water together, and we drove in the same bus together. That absolutely affects how you think about the other side. And in some cases, they actually did talk to each other. I'll tell you perhaps one other program, and then I'll call Khaled up for questions. That's one of the most important parts. Our program of cooperation with the Israeli army. The Israeli army, the local Israeli army, sees what we're doing is very important because they see the potential for calming the flames. So they've begun to bring their officers to our programs and to bring all of their soldiers serving the area, our programs, meet local people, hear what it's like to live as a Palestinian, see the other side of the checkpoint. And absolutely, these programs and many others are changing people and changing hearts and changing lives. Thank you.
One thing I want to know is, would the people where you live, would they be open to having Palestinians move to your settlement? That's the first thing, and I want to sort of change things.
No.
I had my change of heart a little over 9 years ago, and I've studied the subject voluminously. Is there, when you guys get together, and you probably, I doubt that you have compared to me, hardly anyone has, but when you guys get together, maybe you are, but are the Jewish people who are at least open to the other, are they able to start acknowledging, are they able to start reading and understanding the absolute monstrous oppression and brutality that has been inflicted upon the Palestinian people since before 1948? I mean, I'm talking about policies of humiliation, policies of deliberately killing civilians, including children. This is all documented. The wars in Gaza have all been started by Israel, incited by Israel. The violence is incited by Israel. I'm not saying Palestinians are pure, but I don't know any people, as Ben-Gurion admitted, in the history of the world who have ever passively accepted the ethnic cleansing and murder of their own people. So, because the reason I ask is I like the idea of these summer camps. I've actually written about it, and I know people who organize it in New Mexico, but is there real dialogue, or do the Palestinians have to pretend that it's a symmetrical conflict and they can't really talk about the horrible things that have been inflicted upon them for generations?
I think that one of the tasks of what we do is to help each side understand its mistakes. My responsibility is not to teach the Palestinians about their mistakes. My responsibility is to teach my people about our mistakes. So in the framework of what we do, it absolutely happens, and it has to happen, and it does happen, that Israelis, including me, begin to understand the terrible things that we have done and we're still doing.
What about the settlement where you live?
No, my settlement doesn't even allow non-observant Jews to live there. It's a very, very homogeneous place, and there are serious drawbacks of homogeneous places. I admit that. There's very much to be said about social and educational diversity, but my community is not about that, for better or for worse. Khaled perhaps wants to respond?
No, I want to add that this is the first time that such as kind of dialogue start to be between Palestinian and Israel settlers. I think it's to open one or the last door of this conflict and to see what do we have there, because the one who pays the price every day, every and night is the Palestinian. Peace for Israel is to complete their life, to make it better. For the Palestinians, it's to start. We are not living. Our kids, their dream, their future, there is nothing. We have. I think what he is saying now, whatever he is, he's a Jew, but whatever he is, I can respect him, and I know me and him together, we can change the reality in our region. And he welcome from my side as a Palestinian. He and anyone who is thinking and talking like him is welcome.
I have a question, minor one. When the Israeli officers and soldiers come to your gatherings, do they leave their guns behind? Are they in uniform, or are they not in uniform?
They are in uniform, and they come as a soldier, and they can represent the occupied army. Our mission, or we look to this as an important point, because we know we try the maximum that we can to go through a process of reconciliation. And I think part of this is to make this, the soldier at the end, he got an order from his government, from his leadership. But when he put down his uniform, he's a human being. And this human being I want to talk with. And I want him to care about the people that they pass through him until we have a solution. I don't want the people to pay more and more price than they paid every day and every night. This is what we want. So let's help them deal with each other. Let's try to make or to reduce the violence as much as we can in our area, to prepare the ground for the coming solution. And we hope, and I pray to God that this will happen as soon as possible.
I want to respond very shortly. The chief military commander of the whole West Bank came to visit without his uniform about 2 months ago, with his chief of staff also without her uniform. And they understood that in order to fully see what's going on, they have to go incognito. And they were willing to do that. That was really amazing. And I want to say something else. About just a month and a half ago, we had 30 soldiers without weapons who came to visit. And the Palestinian speaker was Jamal, the man I met at the gathering that I described. Jamal is very, very straightforward. He described to those soldiers for a good 20 minutes how difficult it was for him to sit in their presence, and how frightened he was and how resentful he was of them, but he managed to say that to their faces. And that was deeply painful for them to hear, but deeply meaningful. Yeah.
Yes, I would like to know if you have had any visitors who are not Jewish, not Palestinian, but consider themselves Christian Zionists.
In our halqa?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Christian Zionists, not just Christians. Have we had Christian
Christian
Zionists?
Zionists.
You mean like the John Hagee type? You probably heard from you understand my personality. I'm willing to talk to anyone. So I've certainly had Christian Zionists in my home. Have I ever brought them to our center? Some of them, I think some of them, yeah. Actually, I've been told there's a whole emerging wing in the church of, they said that we're pro-Israel and we're pro-Palestine. These are young people in Christian Zionist churches who are becoming more socially aware, social justice, and they're taking their Christian Zionism and channeling in the direction of we're in favor of Israel's right to exist, and we see the Jewish people's return to land as divine vision, but that can't be on the expense of the Palestinians. So we have some of those joining us.
Some evolution there.
Absolutely. Hopefully we're all evolving. There's the one over there, and then Jan? That's Pat, right?
No,
Jan, I'm sorry.
So when you mentioned the gap year,
Yeah.
do you think that any of the Israelis, the young Israelis that come there after experiencing that have decided maybe I'm not going to go to the military? Because there are those groups, there are young people in Israel who said I'm not going to serve. Do you think that you've influenced anybody that's come in and said I can't do this?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I'll tell you that Ali Abu Awaad, Khaled's brother, who usually is the Palestinian representing us, says very clearly to them, I'm not here to try and convince you to not go into the army. I understand that that's your duty as a citizen of Israel. But I'd like to do what I can, says Ali, to make sure that when you go into the army, you'll do what you have to do in the most humane and the most empathetic fashion possible. That's what Ali says. Do I know if any of the Israelis have decided not to serve? I don't know. I'll tell you the truth. I hope I'll offend you, but the truth is, I don't want them not to serve. I want them to serve the country, but to do it in a better fashion than it's being done until now.
But so you don't say to them, so his brother doesn't say to them, your other option is to be a conscientious objector. That you maybe can, serve your country.
Yeah.
And still be a good citizen, maybe not in everyone's eyes, but by not serving in the military. So
Yeah.
that's never a part of that conversation?
As far as I know, no. Khaled, do you have?
I don't think this is my job. We, Awaad's family, we have the feeling that we are strong. We are not a victim. We have the feeling that we, as a Palestinian, with the power of our right, we are more strong than our enemy. This is where we start. This is from where we came and talk. I don't care if he will go to the army or not. You know what? I prefer that he will go to the army. Because I need the people that sharing me and come to support me, that they have their strong place in their society. When they have been thrown out or have no legitimacy in their society, they cannot help me. They cannot. I don't care. Let them have the army. I will have maybe in the future when I have my freedom. I want to have an army and everything in my side. So this is their right. I want my right.
Right. I'm sorry. We said Jan next. Right?
Yeah.
First of all, Rabbi Hanan, I really respect you for the reconciliation work and the really difficult work you're doing to confront a different reality. That's not easy. So I appreciate, the fact that you're doing that. I'm also wondering, I've been in Beit Mar twice, and I've met with groups similar to yours that are getting together and talking settlements are not only taking Palestinian land in the past, but they are continuing to take more and more Palestinian land. The settlement of Tekoa, for example, I think is a fairly new settlement. I'm not sure about that, but one of the issues I know was the ongoing taking of Palestinian agricultural land for new settlement building. I'm wondering how you view that now that you have sort of come to understand a little bit about the Palestinian narrative. And
Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you for that question. I was hinting to this when I said earlier that my transformation can't just be a spiritual transformation. It has to have practical ramifications. And this is difficult for me. That's an understatement. And difficult for me to say this in public. But for the past 6 months, I've been thinking. On the one hand, I believe in the Jewish right to live in the whole land of Israel. And I think that without the settlements, we would lose that right. But on the other hand, the settlements are absolutely infringing upon Palestinian rights. That's become clear to me. And I do think that settlement policy has to change. I think it is true that we have enough settlements now, from our perspective. And the policy of a settlement on every hilltop is destructive. I understand you probably want me to say more than that. I can't say more than that. I'm telling you my heart.
I wanted you to say what you
Yeah.
how you see it. Thank you.
So clearly, what both are involved in has as its basis a questioning, an examination and questioning of assumptions,
Yes.
many of which you guys didn't know you had, perhaps, consciously.
Yes.
And now you're discovering more assumptions. So you're digging deeper, and the people that you're in contact with, one hopes, are also doing that. That's a very dangerous thing
Yeah.
to be involved in.
Yeah.
Because, for instance, what was said about, well, would some of those soldiers become refuseniks? Well, that certainly would seem like more of a possibility after they had been involved with your group, for example. So I'm not cautioning against that. I think it's great. I think it's great in every context, not just this one. But this is a new way of being. Palestinians have lots of assumptions about how life should be. Jews have assumptions, Muslims have assumptions, and all of a sudden, it seems like maybe some of those things are up for discussion too. And I'm not even asking you to answer this unless you have something right. You know, is there anything that suggests that there's a lot more going on underneath that has been done through this process?
I'll just say one sentence that every single one of our leadership group on both sides, and many of the hundreds of people who've come in contact with us, are on some level undergoing a personal transformation. And that is the most powerful, meaningful human thing, and it's also dangerous, painful.
What we're talking about here is individual change. You've confronted your history, you've learned from it. I think evil is both personal and it's systemic. The evil that I do toward my brothers and sisters is a personal thing, but it's also in the system. And we can sit down on a micro level and talk to each other and get to know each other and enjoy each other's company, but unless it also changes on the macro level, the occupation is going to continue to oppress and destroy and harm and then
tangential to this, I think, is also the concept of a Jewish democracy, which seems to be oxymoronic. I don't know what I'm asking you to reply to, but I'm just expressing a few, if you could respond in some way.
Do you want to respond?
Yeah, sorry. I have
No,
a
you
feeling
do.
that we are in Hebron. Okay.
You're feeling where you right?
Yeah, like in my village. The question is all going to Hanan. So you are. It's okay. Tafadhal.
I don't have anything to respond. But I agree. There is something systemically wrong in the occupation. I think there are many things on both sides that are very, very deeply wrong. But let me respond. Let me use your question as an opportunity to say something I wanted to say, which is as follows. We believe in Roots that the time is not ripe for a peace settlement. The people on both sides are not psychologically ready. The people on both sides don't see the other. They don't see the humanity, the justice, the truth of the other's way of life or the other's narrative. What we in Roots are doing is preparing the human ground for a future peace settlement. Today, were we to sign a piece of paper, it would blow up in our faces. I once said to a large crowd, and I got a big laugh for this, but I didn't mean it to be funny. I said that Abu Mazen and Netanyahu should not sit down right now for peace negotiations. They should sit down for a month of therapy. And I mean that. Without that therapy, we can't understand each other. And it's not just the leaders that need that therapy, it's the individuals that need that therapy. So I'm sorry that I'm saying something that sounds very hopeless, that it's not time for a peace settlement. It's time for reconciliation. And only then will a peace settlement become possible. And once there's reconciliation, it'll be relatively easy to get to a peace settlement. Now, of course, under present circumstances, we don't seem to be coming close to reconciliation. We're going farther away. But our work is about preparing the human ground for a future peace settlement.
Let's leave the leader. We still, and you know my opinion, I still believe that the partners should support each other. The partner, they should support each other. The one is supporting the other. And I think Bibi Netanyahu, he destroyed Abu Mazen from the beginning until now. And all the time, Abu Mazen is a good partner for peace. Yes, he's not that strong leader, but he's a peace man. Really, he mean it. When he talk about nonviolence and peace, he mean it. He want it. And he want to give up a lot of things to having peace. But I still believe that Bibi Netanyahu is damaging all the infrastructure of Mahmoud Abbas by his behavior. So leave it. I'm not here to discuss the political leaders and the politicians. I am here to talk about the people. What we are talking, the reconciliation that we are talking, is to prepare the people to support the common solution. The common solution, maybe the settlement will not be a problem. The opposite. Let them build more. Maybe the solution is to have one state.
I didn't say that.
I think, for example, one state, and we will have the right to live wherever we want. Okay? I don't, you know, we stop, it's stories. We stop with the points, and we spend time and months and years have a discussion about right and wrong, and this is my right and this is your right, and the price is life of people, where if we sit with ourselves for a moment and think about the things, it's very simple. This is not the problem, the settler is not the problem, the ant is not the problem. We have a problem to accept each other. First of all, as a people, we have a problem. As he said, we don't see the other side. We don't want, they are not exist. We don't want them there. Do you think me, a Palestinian, whatever, what you call him, Naama and her?
Naama and Eitan.
Naama and Eitan. Do you think for me, it's a kind of fighting for my freedom to kill father and mother in front of their kids? I'm ashamed of this, of what those people do. In the name of my freedom, in the name of my fighting, this is not what I want. This is not the Palestinian people, my Palestinian, my identity that I love and I spend my life fighting for it. Do you think to kidnap 3 kids and kill them like this is make me honor? I am ashamed of this. This should not be what we are doing as a Palestinian. This is from my side. This is what I should talk with myself, and he will talk with himself. He will bring himself to the right place, and I should bring myself and my people to the right place when I'm talking. Let's be honest. Let's say the reality. Where we make a mistake, we make a mistake. Where we are right, we are right. But to be right all the time, I don't think we are right all the time. I should take the energy of my anger in the way of how to build bridge between the two sides. But the dream of those youth, yeah, you know, in the Israel side, I know hundreds and thousands of youth. They left the country and they came. They are looking to live in America. And the Palestinian, if the American embassy and the Europe embassy let them got a visa, they will leave the country and they came.
You're right.
You're right. Their dream, our dream is our future. And those youth, they are closed. They cannot go out. Their dream is destroyed in front of them. They are thinking, I dream 1, 2, 3 like other youth in the world. But when I look to the reality, it cannot be. It cannot be. And that's what we should change. I'm not caring of myself. I am passing now. I'm 50 years old. I want my kids and my grandchildren to live in a different situation. For this, I need to talk with Hanan. I need to talk with Bibi, with everyone as a human to human being, to sit, to discuss. The land is not more expensive than my brother and my sons. My sons and brother, blood is better than the land. The future of my sons is more important than all these stupid issues that they try to put on the table and discuss it day and night without having anything.
Other questions for our guests?
I have one for
Back?
As a settler, I mean, I'm aware of the disparity between the amount of water that Israeli settlers get and Palestinians are allotted. And I'm wondering if, as a settler, you are aware of that, or if you can see the disparity when you go to.
I, for 34 years of my life, never heard of it, nothing. I never went into Beit Umar, never went into a Palestinian village. Since I've been involved in this work, I've heard stories from Palestinians and even stories from Americans who come to be hosted in Palestinian homes, and they tell me, can't take a shower except 3 times a week. So I hear this, and the truth, I guess, that if I were a totally responsible human being, I would go to the internet and start looking it up. I haven't done that. I've devoted now my whole life to fundraising for Roots. But certainly these things come up in our discussions, and it's part of what was asked here. This new consciousness has to change, and it does change the way we think and the way we act. That's all I can. I'm sorry I can't give you a better answer. I don't have one.
Bob?
Thank you for both of your courage.
Yes.
My question is, are you feeling pushback from your own communities? What kind of pressure are you feeling from your own communities on doing this work?
Yeah, for us, this is a new thing. Not only from our community, also from international community. We have been pushing that what we are doing is not, it's so unbelievable for them. It's so thick and difficult for them to understand. But when we have a step, we think about it, and before we decide, before we are doing anything. And what we are doing, we believe that this is the right thing. Okay? So my society, my people, most of them, it's difficult for them, but still, we are not a simple family. Awaad's family is a family that have been very active, fighting, caring for her for her people, for our nationality, for everything. So it's not easy for the people to what we are doing, and it's not easy for the people also to go against us. So in some way, they're waiting also, because also it's maybe they will have from this dark tunnel a light at the end.
And I'll just answer that, of course, there's opposition. What we're doing and saying is completely new and against the grain to 95% of my neighbors in Judah and Samaria. There's certainly a lot of opposition, but there's a minority of people who are joining us, and it's just really unbelievable how things are developing. My wife was very, very against this a year and a half ago when I got involved. Since then, we've had Ali Abu Awaad as a guest at our home more than once. He's met my children, my grandchildren. My kids are now part of this. My wife is part of it. My granddaughter was in the summer camp together. And neighbors, almost every week I get a phone call. Someone comes up to me, tell me what you're doing. There's more opposition. There are people joining us, absolutely. But people are joining us slowly and surely, and we're gradually expanding the circle. I think just like 5 more minutes, and then I want to, at the end, close with something.
Okay, can I?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. You know, when I've seen, it's not Hanan, it's Shaul. When I've seen Shaul, this is one of the participants of our program. When I've seen him the first time bring his little kids, 3 and 4 years old, to me, to my land, to meet with our kids, I know that the one who brings those kids, he mean every word he said. I think he mean it, and he came, and he want to do things with me from his heart. This is very strong. I'm 14 years active on the peace process and peace building and bridge. I don't remember that the people from Tel Aviv and from Haifa, they came with their kids to the meetings. Beautiful. This is not in our hand. Our destiny that we are there, both. And for both of us, there is no other place. There is no a Jewish country or an Israel country out. And we, the Palestinians, we don't have, you know, the Syria and the Saudi and all the Arab country will treat us badly if we go there. I know that they are our friend, our brother, but when we go there, we will not be welcome. So the only place that we have to live is there, together, as a brother, as a neighbor, as our cousins, whatever it. But we should live in peace on that place, or we will continue to live together, but in hell. This is what's going on today. We are living already together there. So let's change it.
So some of us are familiar with Tent of Nations.
Yes.
Which is in the same area.
Yes.
And some of us have visited there, and we sponsor trips each year over there. So maybe we'll have to plug into stopping.
You will come
as well.
So let me tell you that Tent of Nations is a 25-minute walk from my home.
Okay.
And it's only a 18-minute walk from our center. The truth is that I and all of my neighbors, even though Tent of Nations is so close, never heard of it. I reached out to them about a year ago and began to have connections with Daoud. I would be very happy if someday Daoud would agree to participate in meetings between settlers, his neighbors, and his people. It's not been agreed upon yet. I hope that day will come. Make the connection. And we have had groups who've come to him and us the same day. At the Tantor Institute, you know Tantor? No.
Yes.
They're close partners of ours. They've come to both places. Can I say some things to close?
Okay.
I'm going to take 3 minutes to close.
Before closing, then, you go ahead, and we thank you very deeply for sharing your personal stories. I know stories like this don't happen overnight. They're the long process of waking up to new realities, and we appreciate your honesty and your sharing, both of you sharing deeply with us. Yes,
Thank you.
You may complete that, yes.
I'd like to make 3 points at the end that perhaps didn't come out clearly. One is that we believe in Roots that religion has to be part of the solution. It seems that the prevailing position is that religion is part of the problem and can't be part of the solution. Whether Islamic religion or Jewish religion, the fundamentalists, the extremists, so it's seen, are the religious people. Keep them out of this. Let's make peace that's not based on religious principles. Keep the fundamentalist religious people out of it. That's how we can make peace. That was the foundation of Oslo. We believe that that's impossible because the religious hopes and desires of both sides are deeply rooted, not just in those people who we call extremists. They're deeply rooted in the Jews and the Muslims of the land. The way to make peace is not to get rid of religious aspirations, it's to work with them, to use religion as a bridge and not as the divider. And it's not fundamentally, when Jews and Muslims start talking about religion, they're amazed how many similarities there are. And there's less similarities with Christians, but with Christians as well. One of our major partners is Sami Abu Awaad from Bethlehem. When we discuss Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, we are just amazed at the foundations that are so similar. And then we say, how are we in conflict? We're so much the same. We're just so much, so we're using religion as a foundation to bring people together. That was point number one. Point number two is related. Just about 2 months ago, in a leadership summit that we had, we decided that our vision for the future is based on each side accepting that the other side has full historical and religious rights to the whole land, from the Mediterranean to the Jordan. The Hamas flag that doesn't show a border, just shows the whole land with a Palestinian flag, as much as that bothers Israelis and drives us crazy, there's deep truth in that. And the Jewish religious approach, that the whole land from the Jordan to the Mediterranean is deeply Jewish, I'm sure that really rattles Palestinians. We believe that both of those maximalist visions are actually true and have to be taken into account. Both sides have to accept the other's claim to the whole land, honor it, and then we could start to make peace. The third point I wanted to make is we want your money. If you have any, please give it to us, because without your money and your help, we can't go forward. A little bit or a lot, what you're able is very, very much appreciated for building infrastructure, for all the programs listed on the sheets that you have and many other programs that we're doing. Please look at our website, friendsofroots.net. friendsofroots.net. See what we're doing, read the articles. On the homepage, please sign up for our quarterly newsletter. It's not daily, and it's not weekly, it's not monthly. It's only a quarterly newsletter. Tell you what we're doing 4 times a year. Sign up, please. And if you're able, again, to donate some money, either through the envelope, through the address on the sheets or on our website, that would be very, very much appreciated. Thank you very much for having us.